All right, everyone, let's get this show started. Welcome to our DevOps office hours. It's May 11th, 2022. My name's Eric Osterman, and I'll be leading the conversation. I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. We're a DevOps accelerator, which just means that we help companies own their infrastructure in record time by building it together with your team and showing them the ropes. So if that sounds interesting, head over to cloudposse.com/quiz to get started. For those of you new to the call, the format is very informal. My goal is to get your questions answered. So feel free to unmute yourself if you want to jump in and participate. If you're tuning in from our podcast or YouTube channel, you can register for these live and interactive sessions by going to cloudposse.com/officehours. Again, that's cloudposse.com/officehours. We host these calls every week. Our call today is recorded. We'll automatically post a video recording of today's session to our YouTube channel. So if you enjoy the content and want to support it, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. Just head over to youtube.com/cloudposse. Again, that's youtube.com/cloudposse. So with that said, let's kick it off. So just a few pretty quick announcements for this past week. One of these came about largely by accident. Not sure when this came out. I'm sure it's been around for a while, but as you all know, GitHub has been investing heavily into code spaces and basically adapting VSCode to run in the browser. It's always been based in JavaScript, so they made it possible, and this is pretty rad. So just by going to this URL, instead of github.com, you just replace the com with a dev in your repo. You can now edit in VSCode any repo in GitHub. Pretty rad. Obviously, you have to go through pull requests and all that other flow, but I think that's a large step forward.
Yeah,
it's arguably it. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it looks as though it's also competing with what is it called?
Gitpod. Yeah, exactly. Same dealio.
This is just a view only thing, though, so it's not.
Oh, this is view only right now.
As far as I know, yes. It's the same thing as if you press dot wherever you're on the repo. It's view only. Don't get me wrong, it's super, super useful, especially if you want to search files in a repo or do things like that.
You can edit
you
code.
don't get access to the terminal and things as far as I could be wrong. Eric, if you click the menu in the upper left, can you do a terminal?
Yeah, and then you can actually commit it. I've made changes to a pull request that I've opened and responded to comments in line and then committed it back to the same pull request. So you can have your VS
I was
Code
totally wrong. I am sorry.
open. You can see the comments that people have made, and then you can just, you can see it live time, which is pretty nice.
You probably need write access to the repo in order to make changes.
That's cool. And then, I'm not trying to edit any branch. What was the keystroke again, Jeremy? That you
dot?
So if I go to github.com/cloudposse, okay. All right, GTC.
There's also like an extension you can install in your own VS Code if you want to have the same experience.
So it said launching web editor. Is it the same thing as Code Spaces, or is this a lighter version of Code Spaces? I'm a bit confused.
It's pretty much, I don't use Code Spaces, but it's pretty full feature. You can install plugins. Not all of the plugins work, but some of them do. Like the HashiCorp plugin. There's a HashiCorp plugin you can install for code highlighting. And then there's some other HashiCorp plugins that you can't install. It's for HCL.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the distinguishing factor is if it uses a language server, an external language server, which some of the plugins do, like the official Terraform plugin. It launches a language server as it's an external process. You obviously can't do that in the web. So like that's the reason that some of the other ones won't work. Like the ones that are grayed out, I think because they run like a background process. Oh, there you go. Click on the learn why. It probably says, probably says that.
I can't figure out how to get to it. All right.
That's the first test of if you're allowed to use this or not.
Yeah.
Do you know where does the extensions are getting installed at? Is this
On your
everything
browser.
I think it's local storage in
Oh,
your browser,
really?
local storage. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
I would have assumed it's using somehow your GitHub login to store it on their side. Nope.
yeah, that's how
I
it
don't
would
think
be.
so.
So that also means then you don't have the same experience if you're on this browser versus another browser. That'd be the test, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're in Firefox and Chrome, if you see the same experience.
Although they might synchronize like what plugins were installed and automatically install them for you or something like that. But
Okay, that's a
I don't
fair
know.
point. That it could do.
Yeah, but I actually looked like when I installed something, it actually changed local storage.
Hey, Mohammed, I recognize this guy. It's a regular here. All right. Next announcement was just a slight enhancement on GitHub Actions. It's kind of nice. So you can now summarize the outcome of your job in a markdown file. And the use case for that is you could, kind of summarize, like, for example, your test results here. If you are doing some kind of linting or scanning, you can make a more helpful output, like this example here of, hey, we detected problems with your formatting, run this command to format your Terraform code. You could generate mermaid diagrams now, since it supports the full feature set of Markdown on GitHub, which they recently announced mermaid support. So that could be cool for Terraform projects, for example. Another announcement was Cloud Posse related. So our Atmos tool that we've been working on for the past couple of years has had one big shortcoming, is that you have all this complex YAML layered and imported from each other. It was difficult to understand where there were syntax errors or unsupported blocks. Frequently, outwardly the YAML would look correct, but due to indenting can we mute that, please? All right. We haven't had a good way of validating the YAML configurations. So in this case here, we can now output which lines directly have the syntax error. So just run Atmos validate stacks for that. All right. Another announcement was from the weekly.tf, Anton Babenko's newsletter, which is a good one to subscribe to. He found this tool, TF Refactor. There's a few of these Terraform refactoring tools. Basically, the built-in capability of refactoring a module that they released in, I forget, 1.1 with the move blocks is not adequate for most people to actually do the refactoring that you want to do, because you're frequently moving things outside of the module, outside of a root module, and renaming possibly variables and so forth. So this refactor command does a little bit more than what you get just out of the box with the moved blocks. Let's see what else. It'll be interesting if I go back here and look at this command here. Yeah. The way these commands are born is like, this is such a big problem. I can't believe this hasn't been fixed yet in Terraform. I got to write it because I got to do this now to refactor the Terraform code at my company. Then you finish that job and you don't have to do any more refactoring anymore. So now that project goes stale. And it's not until the next person who has the same pain point finds this project and keeps it current and moves it forward. So we'll see if this is a project that has legs or languishes. Looks like development stopped about 4 months ago.
The same thing happened with TF Migrate.
TF Migrate did.
Yeah. And
that was the other tool I was thinking of. Yeah.
There's a bunch of them. And it's unfortunate because it is a problem in the space. But then, yeah, you deal with it once for a company. And I think we, anybody who's a consultant or a contractor deals with it a bunch if you work in any environment where, you know, you're coming on to a client who's built a bunch of stuff themselves and, you know, they've built their Terralith and they're realizing the pain and you're hired to, you know, help them deal with it, or you've made those mistakes yourself. But it's one of those things that I hope that they continue to add.
We're losing you there, Matt.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. Anyway, it's a problem.
You're back.
I hope that they fix it at the Terraform layer. I hope that moved gets more support is what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Probably not until they actually officially recognize that people run multiple Terraform root modules and how that's going to be solved in Terraform open source. Secrets Manager. So small update here. Almost surprised that this wasn't supported already, but apparently now you can get usage metrics on the actual Secrets Manager itself, on the secrets there. So this is great for identifying stale secrets that are languishing, or if there's an unsurprising burst in the usage of a secret that you wouldn't expect. Was somebody about to add something there? All right. Another announcement here is HashiCorp has released their own API for getting release information from their products. I guess when you have a rather sizable catalog, as HashiCorp is starting to amongst their products, having this is a nice little thing. So here you can see just by curling, like the console endpoint here, you can get information about their releases. Obviously, some of this stuff you can just get from GitHub.
Did you find out about this by calling their releases API?
Nope, it was just published on their blog. Smart ass. Yeah, I don't think their blog is in the releases endpoint. Okay.
That'd be very meta if you could do that.
That would be.
I'm sure they have an RSS feed you could parse. Long live XML.
Yeah, I'd be more excited if this was like a general API for getting information on releases from projects. But if it's just for HashiCorp's own products, you know, we don't live and die by HashiCorp. We still need to get release information for all the other projects we use. So, you know, GitHub API is the lowest common denominator for that for us. So.
Although that would be interesting if someone provided a service that abstracted away all the weird GitHub stuff you had to do into like a common API for everything.
An API for
Here you go. You just invented the next tool someone's going to write.
Yeah.
Venmo at Matt Calhoun, and I'll get it going.
Oops. Next, next edition here for announcements is something we've been working on extensively is our dynamic subnet module. I hate to admit it, but you know, it was written back in the days of like Terraform 0.9 or 0.7 or something, and we hadn't done a large overhaul of the module, largely to maintain backwards compatibility for a long time. But in support of IPv6 and some other initiatives that we're working on at Cloud Posse, we're biting the bullet. We're doing a massive overhaul of the dynamic subnets module. Jeremy, anything else you'd like to add to this?
It also has VPC endpoints. which at least I think it's this one, or is that in the VPC module? I've forgotten now. But one of the two modules has a VPC. It's just got a submodule called VPC Endpoints. It's not in the PR. Being
Okay.
Just look in the
Yeah.
thing. We're not, as far as I know, we're not using the VPC endpoints. But this module creates root tables, which would want to get maybe associated with VPC endpoints. And oh, there it is. This is in the VPC module. So there's an issue there of the dreaded,
Oh, this one here.
Depends on resources not available until apply problem with trying to send those subnet IDs into the VPC endpoints module. So, and also this VPC endpoints doesn't support gateway load balancers, and it doesn't support auto accept. So we're not using this module, and I don't really know what it's about. So I'm a little reluctant to make breaking changes on it in support of features that nobody's going to use. But at the same time, I don't want to have to release a series of 3 different breaking changes as we discover, oh, we should have added this, oh, we should have added that. So looking for feedback on that module as well.
And that'll be like a 2.0 release now that we have graduated past 0.x.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, just have a 2.0, not followed immediately by 3 and 4.0s for VPCs, if we're going to change that at all.
Yeah, I was the one who brought that up to you, Jeremy.
Oh, glad you're on the call.
Yeah, I just joined in. I had to take part in a CCD for work.
So I want to get as much feedback as we can on these issues that you brought up. There's links in there's chat threads in Slack, and there's a link to them all in the Office Hours channel, and people can chime in.
Yeah, I think the conversation's been going on here in the AWS modules channel.
Yeah.
So if anybody's curious about what all this refactoring work is about or wants to participate.
You can only participate though if your name is Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some releases later in the week, and then not releases for a while.
Yeah, go back to maintenance mode.
Yeah, and Jeremy, after all the help you got me with that, I'm actually ending up having to write our own subnet module because they don't like the fact that it uses up the entire CIDR block. They want me to make it sliced up better.
Well, you can just slice up the CIDRs and pass them in.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll check with you on see how that, because they don't want, like right now it's creating like a big /19 for the subnets, and they want a bunch of 24s.
Yeah, one of the features that I added there is that instead of automatically cutting up the subnets, taking up the whole sitter, you can pass in a list of sitters to assign to subnets.
Okay, I'll check that out then. I did not see that.
IPv6_sitters.
Okay.
Or IPv4_sitters as well.
Part of the inspiration for this is soon supporting IPAM. So we'll have a different module for managing IPAM pools and leveraging dynamic subnets together with that as well. But the work on IPAM pools hasn't started yet.
There's some IPAM support in the VPC module.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. Then it looks to me like there's no direct IPAM support in the subnets resource. So it looks to me that the IPAM users are going to need to explicitly request sitters from IPAM and then pass them in, which is why the module now supports passing in sitters instead of calculating them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've seen with a lot of opinionated modules that included the VPC and the subnets in one module, was that you working with IPAM became an issue. But with in most cases, you're gonna get your IPAM allocation for the VPC CIDR block, and then you're going to be able to pass that CIDR on to your subnetting. So it should be fairly easy to add that functionality. It should already have that feature in place now, I would imagine.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The previous version didn't support it, but this new version of dynamic subnets will support passing in explicit sitter blocks for subnets.
All right. Well, so there we covered, I think, anything on Transit Gateway you wanted to bring up specifically, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I could mention it, Jeremy. I mean, the fact is, the way that the Transit Gateway is currently handled, it is making the assumption that there's a one-to-one relationship between association and propagation on a route table. Whereas a route table can only be associated with one, or a Transit Gateway VPC attachment can only be associated with one route table, because that's the route table that attachment gets when it passes traffic into the Transit Gateway. But you can have that attachment propagated into multiple route tables. So in our situation, I think if you've got it up there in the thread, Eric, you could show the graphic that I have in the replies. It's a 3-route table deployment with a firewalled security VPC, whereas the firewall attaches to the security route table. Each of your VPCs that are coming into it as spokes would attach to the spoke route table. And then if you had like a shared services management VPC that could reach any of the spokes, you would actually propagate those spoke VPCs out to both the security and the management VPCs or route tables.
Mm.
And that is not a feature that's currently supported by the Transit Gateway. And it is a complex, but it is that's one thing that's limiting me with using the Transit Gateway. I actually ended up getting it to work in that I'm using the Transit Gateway module, and I've got like 4 or 5 instances of it being instantiated. Three of them just to create the route tables, and then I have another 2 that are doing a 4 each that are creating all of the attachments.
Yeah, I think I haven't spent enough time personally looking at this to be able to chime in on that.
Yeah. Incidentally, that example is from FortiGate.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the Transit Gateway is actually probably maybe not the most, but it's probably close to the most complicated configuration that I've seen available from any AWS service, because it has so many possible combinations that it's really hard to implement a generic module that doesn't have some sort of opinionation on it. And the one that we've done is basically for the needs of what generally our customers have needed. And admittedly, it does not cover the scenario that you just mentioned there, Jeremy. So I think that's we'd probably need almost like a separate one, because the feature flagging to optionally do what you just said would be like obscene in that module if we needed to do that. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how it would be done easily enough as well. And the other piece that's not even in there is we've got transit gateways. Since transit gateways are regional, we have multiple transit gateways in different regions and have to route between it, which means setting up a transit gateway peering connection.
Yep. I saw some announcement recently, though, that they're doing something to improve that. I don't remember exactly what the announcement was, but search for recent transit gateway announcements. It was one of those things that I read like a lot of things and I didn't retain exactly what they were doing to fix that, but there is something that they're doing.
Yeah, and we've got multiple accounts, AWS accounts, and bringing the VPC attachments from multiple AWS accounts into the transit gateway to do the routing. So yeah.
Yeah, Eric, one more quick announcement. I DM'd you actually in the Cloud Posse channel. I know you mentioned Anton before, and I know he's been promoting that I think it's on the 17th, they're doing a DevOps Day Ukraine edition where all the tickets are being donated, or the proceeds of the tickets are being donated to local humanitarian relief. And there's a lot of like really good speakers. Kelsey Hightower is going to speak. I know Niall Murphy's going to speak, and a few other people. So for those of you that don't know about it, it might be worth signing up and for the event and helping out a good cause and hearing some really good speakers chatting. So.
Or if you want to sponsor it, that's totally an option too.
It is. Yeah.
Cool. We'll share that in the channel as well here. So we are done then with announcements. Any other cool announcements you guys have seen this past week? Otherwise, we'll go into Q&A.
I saw a big funding round for OtterTune, which is like a service. I have the TechCrunch thing, but yeah,
OtterTune?
Yeah, it's basically a SaaS service to tune the knobs of your databases. It's done by Andy Pavlo, which is like the reference in databases in the world, basically. Yeah, so they got a big round of funding, so I'm assuming that it will have a lot of stuff, but they already support AWS quite well. So basically, their benchmark is you can like double the performance of your AWS database by just running it on it, and yeah, it's kind of nice for cost performance and just getting more performance.
That sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, I know
that works. That sounds cool.
Yeah,
I know a little bit about them. I know that they use like machine learning basically to watch query plans and look for like indexes. That's like one of the main things that they do on there, like for indexes and things like that aren't covered by your top queries, and then they automatically add indexes for you and things like that. It's kind of pretty interesting
cool.
the way it works.
Yeah, they have, but they also like change the parameters of the database. So if you need like, I don't know, more worker memory because it's always exhausted, then they'll automatically change it. So that's cool.
Cool. Good pro tip there.
Related to databases, Cloudflare announced their database today.
Cloudflare will have an edge data. Wait, Cloudflare, they've had a database, right? Their key values.
A SQL database. Yeah, they had a object database, but not a SQL. But it was pretty light on details.
It's based on SQLite. It seems interesting. It's unclear what the latency replication stuff is, how long it'll get stale data, but it is very exciting because Cloudflare is one of the, in my opinion, which could be wrong, but Cloudflare is one of the few companies that is actually focusing on the developer experience and delivering on it, unlike others. They are really a proper competitor to AWS, in my view, and that's awesome.
It's a
Really
bit a
curious how they-
competition with Fly.io that bought Lightstream a couple of days ago. Fly.io, they bought Lightstream and to do it almost the same thing.
I wonder how they're
I
doing
will-
SQLite at the edge in any sort of consistent, synchronized manner.
It depend. I don't know for the Cloudflare one, but Lightstream is a RAF protocol under it. Distributed consensus. So.
Yeah.
I am also a bit. Never mind. This is not the place to talk about my opinions.
Could be.
I would have to imagine that that they have eventual consistency because global distributed transactions seem like it would be really hard.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
also
what
thinking of
we're
the
waiting to
latency.
see with D1, what the eventual consistency is. Like,
Yeah.
do you get stale reads for a couple of seconds? Because they have awesome networking. Is it for longer? Right now it's in private beta, I think, or preview or something. But still, it's awesome. And a lot of people aren't gonna care about stale reads and sub-millisecond propagation and latency and things like that.
Don't use it for financial transactions.
Going to production
That's
tomorrow.
brave.
It's interesting. The words eventual or consistency don't appear anywhere in this document.
I know. That's why I actually said it out loud. Like,
Oh.
I wonder what, because that's the first thing I did. I searched for it and I was like, it doesn't mention how this thing works. So
Well, it's like
Cloudflare
all the
engineers
rights
are-
they go to the same instance. So it's like the right. It's just that you get stale read. So yeah.
Cloudflare engineers are commenting on Hacker News and Twitter.
Oh.
Almost,
I don't
almost
think
like almost like another Theranos.
Theranos, huh? That's a. I'm
I
not
was just
necessarily seeing the connection, but.
Oh, just not showing the details or talking about the details. It's all vague.
Well,
it's actually all DynamoDB, actually, guys. No.
All I was going to say is I don't think it can actually be the same write instance everywhere because the global latency seems like it would be crazy to do that.
Yeah, they
But-
talk about batching and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
no, you only have one instance where you can write. But you can also write to like your local instance, but they have different guarantees. I think they'll do both.
Yeah,
Probably.
it'd be interesting to see.
All right, well, let's jump into Q&A. Let's see what we have on the agenda here so far.
I did want to mention one thing, or if you don't mind my interruption.
Yeah, go for it.
Did the compromise was the compromise on Heroku discussed? I haven't been in office hours for a while.
It's been discussed a little bit. It's come up once or twice here.
I won't
no,
bring it up then.
No, no, but I mean, if there's new information, any updates on that? Always.
No, just that's a shit show. Oh, pardon my French.
Yeah.
The update is don't use a central key that has access to everything.
And if you do, rotate it regularly.
Especially if someone leaves the company.
Yeah. Seriously. All right, let's see here. So, well, let's answer this question first from Matt Gowie. I believe Matt Calhoun recently just took a look at this one here. So Matt Gowie asks, would love to discuss this and hear anybody who's had a chance to kick the tires on the new announcement that Pulumi is supporting YAML as a language. So a extremely declarative way of defining infrastructure without going into TypeScript or Python or Go, etc. Calhoun, you took a look at this. Want to share?
Yeah, I did. I think the TLDR on it is it works for very basic cases and getting things up and running and demoing things, but if you need to do anything complex or you actually need composition between like multiple modules or any of those kinds of things, it just doesn't seem to to really do everything you need to do, and you would need to drop into some sort of language that has true programming structures where you can deal with that. It's pretty light. I mean, if all you need to do is spin up a few modules that are well defined, and you just need to provide variables to them, I think it works pretty well. But the minute you need to actually combine multiple things, it falls apart. That's kind of my TLDR summary on the whole thing.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the YAML solution, but I'd looked at Pulumi before, just strictly because of the coding aspect of it and being able to do some of the conditional logic that I couldn't do with, say, Terraform or any other config management or orchestration tool.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you're essentially, if you do anything complex, you're starting to almost write what looks like CloudFormation.
Exactly. I was gonna say, even look at this line here. Wait, is that CloudFormation I'm looking at there? Like, yeah, it looks like they took a page out of the AWS playbook there.
Oh yeah, that looks like straight.
That's almost identical. Yeah.
So
ugly.
Yeah, it's really hard to do, like, conditionals. It's hard to do true like lookups, cross stack integrations and everything. It's really hard to do in YAML, things that are simple in their programming language. Although while we're talking about Pulumi, I guess I'll just mention, Eric, that the hell was the thing called? Crosscode. I think Crosscode is the name of it, but they actually do have a pretty cool
Crossplane.
Is that it? Crossplane?
Crossplane is what we've been talking about for the last.
Crosscode.
Crosscode. Okay.
Yeah, this is it. So Crosscode is the summary on this is you can basically write modules or consume modules that were written in any language, and then you can then so no matter what language you're writing your consuming code in, you can basically consume modules that were written in any of the supported Pulumi languages, which is kind of a cool function. I haven't seen anyone quite take advantage of it yet. I'm not sure this is, if you scroll up a little bit, Eric, that's not. I posted in our internal Pulumi discussion, I posted a link in there. I don't remember I can find it again if it's, I'm blanking on the exact name of the thing, but you can write a module in, say, C Sharp, and you can consume it in TypeScript or whatever, so. Oh yeah, it was that thing that you were looking at. You just need to scroll further down where it says capabilities. There you go. It's that first thing on the left, that one block on the left. That was the thing that kind of grabbed my attention, which is pretty cool.
Does this mean, though, that everything ultimately goes through the Pulumi platform as a service, or I'm
not sure that I follow that question.
Do you have to use their SaaS platform to actually run Crosscode?
Oh, no. I believe it's built right into the Pulumi binaries that do this.
I'm curious how that works. So I mean, it must shell out to Python or Node or.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they have to dive down to one schema that can be understood by all languages. And where is the imperative part in that? You can, I don't know, that seems so odd. If I made a random REST call as part of my Pulumi code that did something completely different outside of infrastructure, how do they translate that down and make that available to be used in YAML, for example? I'm glad you brought this up. Thanks for bringing it up.
I mean, you're probably framing those modules behind, like you have your outermost layer, which is your dependency ordering and when you're going to run what, right? And so you just break down into the module to run that component and then come back to your outermost stack.
If you were looking in the Terraform world, think about if you think about Cloud Posse's Atmos. I mean, we kind of do this, right? So we're basically giving you the ability to write your Terraform declarations in YAML, which isn't supported by YAML. We have a tool, Atmos, that consumes that YAML, translates it into a call that Terraform understands, and then actually calls Terraform under the hood for you to make it all work. And I think that's basically what this is doing, but for all of the languages that they support, that they support the runtimes for, which is
how could they do that? How could they do that when, let's say I don't have Node.js on my system, but I'm consuming a Node.js built module, like a
I don't think
TypeScript
they
module.
can. I don't think they can.
So you need to install all of those runtimes on your system is the idea.
Probably.
Yeah, I think that's the way that it will work. I mean, you can't run Pulumi in TypeScript if you don't have TypeScript on your machine. You can't run Pulumi in, Python if you don't have a Python runtime on your machine. And I would assume that if you're consuming modules from multiple of those, that you have to have all of those things on your
It's less
machine.
cool. I thought they were doing some serious magic. This looks worth looking into though, because I mean, the interesting thing, the reason why I brought up Pulumi YAML was because it feels like what you folks have done with Atmos and building a YAML schema around Terraform. If you could then translate that and be the high level architects at the like imperative code level, and then give a self-service layer to, application engineering teams or to people who don't actually want to write any code at the YAML layer to just call modules that you've built in Pulumi code, in imperative code. That seems like there's something there that I'm excited they're like going down that path. It makes me actually interested in Pulumi. This adds another layer to that. So
almost exactly what I was saying, like in our internal channel, I was saying like we could standardize on if we wanted to get into the Pulumi world, we could standardize on a language and publish a set of modules that people could consume no matter which ultimate language they wanted to actually do their root module implementation in, if you were equating it to like Terraform, kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting that it would, admittedly, I've only read about it. I haven't actually tried this part of it. So I don't know how it all works, but I'll probably kick the tires one of these days, take a couple hours to do a spike and figure it all out.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. And I know, Eric, it looks like you're trying to move on, so I'll make this the last thing I say. The interesting thing there is that, hey, as a consulting company, and obviously I'm thinking from your folks' perspective because I'm in a very similar mindset. If you could have the development layer for all your consultants be one language, but then you can offer up to the clients that you're consulting and say, hey, you can pick whatever language. If you write Golang code, go for it. If you write TypeScript, go for it. If you write Python, go for it. That is super cool.
Actually,
anyway, we'll see how it plans out.
One last thing, and then I will let Eric go on, is I'm just curious, how many people on the call, just if you could put up your Zoom hand, I guess, to let me know if you would actually be interested in like Pulumi modules or Pulumi things from Cloud Posse. I'm just curious. I see Vlad, 1, 2, 3.
No, I have my hand up because I want to say something.
Oh, something else. Sorry. Put that hand down and ask a question.
I thought people were gonna use reactions.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. That's what I meant. Like the reactions.
Thumbs up.
So, yeah.
Well,
a few people. Okay.
But yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I put my hand up, so it's
I think
definitely interesting to
Vlad
spike
had
on,
beat
right?
you, but yeah.
Two small mentions. So what Pulumi does really nicely is the fact that you can do a lot of things before you actually do the infrastructure as code thing. So think stuff like building a Lambda. If you're doing it in Terraform, you need to have a local exec that calls a script or a Docker or whatever. It's more natural and better integrated in Pulumi. That's awesome, and it's a lovely Pulumi advantage. That was the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing is I am a bit reluctant regarding cross-language modules because I'm seeing what happens in the CDK world. So the CDK is built in TypeScript. Everybody can build TypeScript modules and then use Jitsi to export-ish those modules to Python, C#, Go, whatever. The thing is, those modules feel like shit in all other languages because, and excuse my language, because they don't follow the same naming conventions. They don't follow the same patterns. It destroys, in my view, which is my opinion, and I could be wrong, it destroys the whole advantage of the CDK, which is it's code, it feels natural, it's integrated. And here's this shitty TypeScript code that is kind of C# or kind of Go that we've added into your thing. It's extremely disappointing to see that. So I'm a bit on the edge
get you on that one. Yeah.
That said, I'm really excited about Pulumi, and I've been excited. I want to see where they go and how it matures.
Jim Park, you wanted to add something?
No, I was merely raising my hand to say that it'd be interesting for Cloud Posse to, at least spike on Pulumi and Pulumi modules and what that could look like. Having an opinion on, I think, is useful. In my book, like Pulumi and Terraform fall into the same category of, essentially single shot state transition engines, and as a consequence, or not that I know exactly what it'll look like, but I think that there's something like a more eventually consistent model will take a hold in the future. That's my perspective on it, because
which
there's
is what
this
Kubernetes does,
which is what Kubernetes does inside of its limited scope, right? And so, because the problem with Pulumi and Terraform is that they have a broad scope for essentially any cloud provider's APIs, right? And that's the problem, because it's hard to standardize operations like that. And this is what providers try to do, but they do a pretty that middle layer isn't there yet. That smart business logic layer isn't really well defined, and that's what runtime ordering gives us. But we could still advance that technology, is my point. But anyways, I'd be interested to see what Cloud Posse thinks about Pulumi and where they're at, and maybe Pulumi will be that company that takes us to that next level of infrastructure as code.
Yeah, as Terraform, Terraform is to Chef what maybe Pulumi is to Terraform. Who knows? Movement of technology trends. All right. Andy had a quick question. I don't think he's attending office hours today, but we can see if we do a first pass at it. What are the API gateways that you're using with Kubernetes? Searching through the Slack history, Kong comes up a bit. We do have one or two customers on that. I'm personally not a fan of it right now in terms of seeing how it's working. Ambassador, I've heard of, we haven't used of. Amazon API Gateway, which obviously sits outside of your Kubernetes cluster. There's been a couple failed attempts at creating an operator to work with API Gateway inside of Kubernetes, but not maintained. There's obviously Istio, which has an API Gateway component to it. What else? Anybody? There's OpenResty as part of Nginx Ingress.
Yeah, I was going to say Nginx is also an API gateway, just in general.
Yeah.
We've also discussed the drawbacks of running your own API gateway when we talked about egresses and things like that. And I'd also mentioned that AWS controllers for Kubernetes do support Amazon API Gateway. But this lead, I posted the link in the Zoom chat. Let me post it and Slack it. But this leads into a larger discussion about what should be in Kubernetes, what should be outside of Kubernetes, and managed to Terraform or something different, and that more difficult and more business. But yeah.
All right. Yeah, you sound a little bit faint there at the end, but we got you.
So we use the Cloudflare API gateway for some things.
How's that experience been?
Well, I didn't set it up, so it's something I think it's lingering out there, but the person who was trying to push it is no longer with the company. So it's kind of just lingering out there, but that was something he was trying to push.
Looks bleeding edge.
Yeah.
Okay.
It also, someone, Sharif also mentioned glue in the chat, which is another one. GLOO.
Considering they're just trying to do JWT termination, I feel like it's really an easier decision, right? Like which of those supports JWT termination, and is that work for you?
Then API gateway would be plenty, right?
Yeah, that'd be the one.
With the custom authorizer, though.
With a custom
right?
authorizer, yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't even need to necessarily muck with all the routing and other advanced capabilities it supports if you just care concerned about that.
If you're only concerned about that, you can also talk about something like Auth0 or Okta or whatever that will handle all that for you, and just you just make an API call to validate that the JWT that you were passed is valid, and they take care of all of the API. I mean, the JWT issuance and expiration and renew tokens and everything on their side. It works pretty well to do that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, there's an awesome link shared by Sharif in the Zoom chat. It's a Google Doc spreadsheet that compares the different ingress.
Yeah, it's very
awesome.
It has all the Ingress controllers I know of, and they go in lots of details. There is also there is a weird one no one uses or no one is talking about, but it supports all the features. It is a Apache API 6. This one looks.
Where is it?
Yeah, it is the second one, in the second page. Oh yeah.
This one. Never even heard of it.
Yeah, I never heard of it, and it has almost all the feature. It even has this started in the Kubernetes API gateway. The API, what is it called? The gateway API, the Kubernetes gateway API. They are starting to support it, but nobody talked about it.
Go.
Yeah, I also have some experience with AWS API gateway to use with Kubernetes, and it is not very good experience. Managing, managing the URLs, you'll have to sync the passes and the integrations in API gateway with the Ingress controller configuration, and it adds a lot of hassle to
What tooling were you using? You were using Terraform.
Yeah, Terraform, and I sync it with the Ingress config.
Yeah, take a look at our API gateway module that we built to actually use Open API spec instead of building that out in individual Terraform module resources. Because if you use individual Terraform resources, it's a nightmare to configure API gateway. But if you use the Open API spec, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I can give it a try.
Yeah.
It also limits oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I can't use the AWS Ingress controller with the API gateway because it does not have the routing feature. So I use Nginx snippets to make API gateway work with the Ingress controller. It has to do some routing, to to remove the pass from the proxy request, and like it is not supported with like the AWS Ingress controller. So using API gateway like actually limits the options you can use with other Ingress controller.
Yeah, it's also
Finally, yeah.
I was going to say it's also not the best if your cluster, your Kubernetes cluster is in a private subnet and you want to do things. You have to jump through some hoops to make that work. You basically have to make like an ALB and an NLB like back to back to make it work.
NLB and like services behind API gateway has to be using like network an NLB, not an application load balancer. So
yeah, although you can put them back to back to make it work, which we've done for a customer not too long ago, but it's ugly, but it works.
Yeah, exactly.
I also did that in the past. So the Kubernetes cluster was exposing URL, and the API gateway was used in the proxy mode, and it was fine. I would also add the fact that API gateway does a lot more things. So it can do rate limiting, it can do a bunch of validations, it can validate input, it can validate output. There are a lot more things.
And transformations.
It can connect directly to S3 and DynamoDB. If you're not doing VTL in API gateway, you don't know what you're doing, but let's not go into that. The thing is, it depends what your perspective is. If you're one of those companies that is, in my view, wrong, and it's running in AWS and trying to shove everything in Kubernetes, it's not going to be the thing for you. Like, good luck re-implementing API gateway in Kubernetes. But if you're running a service in Kubernetes and trying to do rate limiting, trying to do some authorization or authentication before stuff goes to Kubernetes, API gateway is an extremely powerful service.
The other argument I hear all the time is, well, we want to build things in agnostic fashion, API gateways, so Amazon specific, because in 3 years from now, 4 years from now, we want to operate on Azure and Google Cloud at the same time, which is a gross premature optimization, because who says it's even going to be Kubernetes?
I hope your Kubernetes cluster isn't running on EKS then.
As somebody that built cross-cloud and multi-cloud solutions and SaaS products, that sentence is angering on many levels, but it comes from a place of not being properly informed, and that's a failure of us as the DevOps community, tech community, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. We're almost at time. Matt Gowie, did I see you have a last thought you wanted to share there? Or?
Oh, no, we're at time enough. I mentioned one thing because Vlad was saying the developer experience for GitOps is particularly shit. And I, agree. We can. I would love to chat about that next time, maybe, just because there's some things I really love about GitOps and other things that suck. And
I think that would be a fascinating topic.
Really,
next time.
Interesting. Well, thank you everyone for your time today. Again, we're going to share today's recording on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/CloudPosse and subscribe. If you haven't yet connected with me on LinkedIn, go to linkedin.com/in/Osterman. Let me know that you found us via office hours. As well as if you haven't joined our Slack team, just head over to slack.cloudposse.com. We host these calls every week. Our call, today, as we mentioned, is recorded. It'll also be syndicated to our podcast. So you can go to podcast.cloudposse.com and get a copy of that recording there as well. If you ever want to work with Cloud Posse, you know where to go. Just go to cloudposse.com/quiz. Again, cloudposse.com/quiz to find out if we are a good fit for what you need at this time. Take care. Have a great week. See y'all next week. Same place, same time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.